Welcome to Mind Shock. This is your host, Bruce McGuire. The latest news coming in regarding the Georgia Guidestones. They were bombed 4 a.m. the morning of July 6th. Has someone had enough of the New World Order agenda? And a security video actually exists of this happening, which we'll be taking a look at as well. As always, if you enjoy the Mind Shock podcast, want to help support the podcast, want to help logic and reason come back to a world where it is quickly becoming extinct, particularly in discussion of certain conspiratorial topics, true crime cases, various other subjects. If you want more content discussing these topics in a non-fallacious manner, you can help support Mind Shock. Donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. Or you can become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell for notifications. Like and share the podcast, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, co-podcast, or requests. You could also be a guest in the podcast, depending on your tier. Questions, comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals, debunkings of any kind, leave them in the comments section. So, before we get into all this news regarding the Georgia Guidestones being an explosive device being placed underneath them and causing some damage here, what are the Georgia Guidestones? For the people that don't know, we will go through the so-called official story, and then we will examine several different theories on what the Georgia Guidestones are before we get to the latest news about why people would be destroying them. And this is actually not the first time some kind of message was given. It's been graffitied before and such. We'll be going over this. So Wikipedia states that the Georgia Guidestones were a granite monument erected in 1980 in Elbert County, Georgia. The monument stood at an approximate elevation of 750 feet above sea level. I'm surprised it wasn't 666. About 90 miles east of Atlanta, 45 miles from Athens, Georgia, and 9 miles north of the center of the city of Elberton. One slab stood in the center with 4 arranged around it. A capstone lay on the top of the 5 slabs, which were astronomically aligned. An additional stone tablet, which was set in the ground a short distance to the west of the structure, provided some notes on the history and purpose of the Guidestones. The structure is sometimes referred to as an American Stonehenge. The monument was 19 feet 3 inches tall, made from 6 granite slabs, there we go, with the 6s, weighing 237,746 pounds. On July 6, 2022, the Guidestones were partially destroyed. Some initial reports said it may have been a bombing. Later in the day, a construction crew pulled down the remaining parts of the structure for safety reasons. In June 1979, a man using the pseudonym Robert C. Christian approached the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on behalf of, quote, a small group of loyal Americans, end quote, and commissioned the structure. Christian explained that the stones would function as a compass, a calendar, and a clock, and should be capable of withstanding catastrophic events. Joe Fendley of Elberton Granite assumed that Christian was a nut and attempted to discourage him by providing a quote for the commission, which was several times higher than any project the company had previously taken, explaining that the Guidestones would require additional tools and consultants. To Fendley's surprise, Christian accepted the quote. When arranging payment, Christian said that he represented a group which had been planning the Guidestones for 20 years and which wanted to remain anonymous. Now, who is this group? The New World Order? The Illuminati? The shape-shifting reptilians from another dimension? Who knows? Christian developed a scale model of the Guidestones and 10 pages of specifications. The 5-acre site was apparently purchased by Christian on October 1st, 1979, from farm owner Wayne Mullenix. Mullenix and his children were given lifetime cattle grazing rights on the Guidestones site. On March 22, 1980, the monument was unveiled before an audience variously described as 100 or 400 people. So definitely not 200 or 300. It was either 100 or 400. Christian later transferred ownership of the land and the Guidestones to Elbert County. In 2008, the stones were defaced with polyurethane paint and graffiti with slogans such as "Death to the New World Order." Wired magazine called the defacement the first serious act of vandalism in the Guidestones' history. In September 2014, an employee of the Elbert County Maintenance Department contacted the FBI when the stones were vandalized with the graffiti including the phrase, "I am Isis, goddess of love." In 2015, the documentary film Dark Clouds Over Elberton was released, in which it was claimed the Guidestones were paid for by Herbert Heinze Kersten, 1920 to 2005, a doctor from Fort Dodge, Iowa, described as a white supremacist and supporter of David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan. Kirsten was a friend of Robert Merriman, who published Common Sense Renewed in 1986, a book which aimed to explain the Guidestones. He was also an associate of William Shockley, a Nobel laureate in physics who was also a white supremacist and a eugenicist. I mean, eugenicists fit into the New World Order plan. The documentary makers claim to have acquired a letter from Wyatt C. Martin of the Granite City Bank and found Kirsten's address as the return address. On May 1st, 2022, Candace Taylor, spelled Kandiss, a candidate running in the Georgia gubernatorial primary, released a campaign ad calling for the destruction of the Guidestones. And what do you know, 2 months later, bam! Interesting. So the 2022 bombing, on July 6, 2022, an explosion hit the stones, destroying the Swahili Hindi language slab and causing significant damage to the capstone. Nearby residents reportedly heard and felt explosions around 4 a.m. The remaining stones were later removed by a construction crew. Inscriptions. A message consisting of a set of 10 guidelines or principles engraved on the Georgia Guidestones in 8 different languages, 1 language on each face of the 4 large upright stones. Moving clockwise around the structure from due north, these languages are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, traditional Chinese, and Russian. I mean, that's an interesting assortment there. Huh. So Swahili is the most spoken language in Africa, so perhaps that's why they chose it. Although obviously there are many other languages in Africa as well. Now it's curious. So there's no German. Is that because there's conspiracy theories that Germany opposed the New World Order, and that's why the war was, and we're not going to go down those conspiratorial rabbit holes, but that's one of the theories, that any country that opposes the New World Order is slated for destruction. So there's also no French on here, which is also interesting, and no Italian and no Greek. Curious. Very, very curious, their language selections here. So here are the messages. There are 10 here. 1, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. Now, the past few years might have opened some eyes regarding this issue. 2, guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Now, it's weird. I don't understand what they mean by that. Clearly, fitness is not a priority, but who knows. 3, unite humanity with a living new language. Now, is that for like the next one world order, new world order, one world government? 4, rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. I mean, most people don't even know what the word reason means. 5, protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. I mean, is that an inside joke? What's going on there? 6, let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. 7, avoid petty laws and useless officials. Clearly that's not done in the U.S. I mean, are there any officials, government officials, who aren't useless? 8, balance personal rights with social duties. Uh-oh. Descent to communism and socialism there. 9, prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. I mean, that's quite a perplexing one. 10, be not a cancer on the earth, leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. So they stated it twice, to leave room for nature. Explanatory tablet. A few feet to the west of the monument, an additional granite ledger has been set level with the ground. This tablet identifies the structure and languages used on it and lists various facts about the size, weight, and astronomical features of the stones, the date it was installed, and the sponsors of the project. It refers to a time capsule buried under the tablet, but blank spaces on the stone intended for filling in the dates in which the capsule were buried and is to be opened have not been inscribed. So it is uncertain if the time capsule was ever actually put in place. Is this like stories about all these hidden treasures under the right paw of the Sphinx? Or the left paw of the Sphinx, whichever one that was? The complete text of the explanatory tablet is detailed below. The tablet is somewhat inconsistent with respect to punctuation and misspells the name pseudonym. The original spelling, punctuation, and line breaks in the text have been preserved in the transcription which follows. Letter case is not. At the top center of the tablet is written, the Georgia Guidestones, center cluster erected March 22nd, 1980. Immediately below this is the outline of a square, inside which it is written, let these be guidestones to an age of reason. Around the edges of the square are written translations to 4 ancient languages, 1 per edge. Starting from the top and proceeding clockwise, they are Babylonian in cuneiform script, Classical Greek, there we go, Sanskrit, and Ancient Egyptian in hieroglyphs. On the left side of the tablet is the following column of text, metric conversion added. Astronomical features. 1, channel through stone indicates celestial pole. 2, horizontal slot indicates annual travel of sun. Interesting. Not travel of Earth around the sun. 3, sunbeam through the capstone marks noontime throughout the year. Author, R.C. Christian, a pseudonym. Sponsors, a small group of Americans who seek the age of reason. Time capsule placed 6 feet, 1.83 meters below this spot on blank to be opened on blank. The words appear as shown under the time capsule heading. No dates are engraved. Is that kind of weird, though? Like, or did they aim to engrave that later? I mean, what's the deal there with this mysterious time capsule? Also, regarding the seeking the age of reason, is this one of the plots of the New World Order, just kind of destroy the world so it can be rebuilt? And is there some kind of co-opting of the New World Order term by the Illuminati? I mean, how many New World Orders are there? I mean, is anything really as simple as it appears? I mean, a lot of coincidence theorists, I mean, they just have these false dichotomy logical fallacies where it's either this or that. But, I mean, few things in the world are that simple, particularly when you're dealing with secret societies and corrupt governments and such. So, yeah, it's kind of unclear. Again, we don't have definitive evidence who put these up. So even if this was not the Illuminati, so to speak, as most people think of them, the New World Order, the evil group or whatever, who seek to destroy most of mankind and continue their rule, if this was some other group, but certain conspiracy theorists or anti-one world government freedom fighters destroyed this monument because they thought it was from the Illuminati, which most people reference, even if it wasn't. Again, these are things we do not know. Physical data. On the right side of the tablet is the following column of text. Metric conversions added. And you know what's weird here? Was this left for future civilizations who might have had different measuring systems, in which case they could compare based on the information left here? Physical data, 1. Overall height, 19 feet 3 inches, 5.87 meters. Total weight, 237,746 pounds, 107,840 kilograms. 4 major stones are 16 feet 4 inches, 4.98 meters high, each weighing an average of 42,437 pounds, 19,246 kilograms. 4, center stone is 16 feet 4 inches high, 4.98 98 meters, weighs 20,957 pounds, 9,506 kilograms. 5, capstone is 9 feet 8 inches, 2.95 meters long, 6 feet 6 inches, there we go, 1.98 meters wide, 1 foot 7 inches, 0.48 meters thick, weighs 24,832 pounds, 11,264 kilograms. Support stones, bases, 7 feet 4 inches, 2.24 meters long, 2 feet 0.61 meters wide, 1 foot 4 inches, 0.41 meters thick, each weighing an average of 4,875 pounds, 2,211 kilograms. Support stone base, 4 inches, 4 feet 2.5 inches, 1.28 meters long, 2 feet 2 inches, 0.66 meters, there we go, wide, 1 foot 7 inches, 0.48 meters thick, weighing 2,707 pounds, 1,228 kilograms. So there is 951 cubic feet, or 26.9 meters cubed, granite. The granite quarried from Pyramid Quarries, located 3 miles, 5 kilometers west of Elberton, Georgia. Pyramid Quarries? Another coincidence, I'm sure. So the Guidestone languages, below the 2 columns of text is written caption, Guidestone languages, with a diagram of the granite slab layout beneath it. The names of 8 modern languages are inscribed along the long edges of the projecting rectangles, 1 per edge. Starting from due north and moving clockwise around so that the upper edge of the northeast rectangle is listed first, they are English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. At the bottom of the tablet is the following text. Additional information available at Elberton Granite Museum and Exhibit, College Avenue, Elberton, Georgia. Another curiosity that some theorized that the surviving these languages were selected because these would be the only groups that weren't completely obliterated, but who knows. Astronomical features. The 4 outer stones are oriented to mark the limits of the 18.6-year lunar declination cycle. The center column features a hole drilled at an angle from one side to the other through which can be seen the North Star. The same pillar has a slot carved through it which is aligned with the sun's solstices and equinoxes. A 7/8 inch, 22 millimeter aperture in the capstone allows a ray of sun to pass through at noon each day, shining a beam on the center stone, indicating the day of the year. So again, this is something going back to ancient civilizations who left these monuments with similar astronomical features, many of them cryptic. Interpretation. Yoko Ono said that the inscribed messages are, quote, a stirring call to rational thinking, end quote, which Wired stated that the unspecified opponents have labeled them as the 10 Commandments of the Antichrist. The Guidestones have become a subject of interest for conspiracy theorists. One of them, an activist named Mark Dice, demanded that the Guidestones, quote, be smashed into a million pieces and then the rubble used for a construction project, end quote, claiming that the Guidestones are of, quote, a deep satanic origin, end quote, and that R.C. Christian belongs to, quote, a Luciferian secret society, end quote, related to the New World Order. At the unveiling of the monument, a local minister proclaimed that he believed the monument was, quote, for sun worshippers, for cult worship, and for devil worship, end quote. Conspiracy theorist Jay Widener has said that the pseudonym of the man who commissioned the stones, R.C. Christian, resembles Rose Cross Christian, or Christian Rosenkreutz, the founder of the Rosicrucian order. R.C. Christian. And we do have a podcast coming on the Rosicrucians. I mean, this is a subject of deep conspiratorial debate. I mean, there is quite a lot to go through regarding the Rosicrucian order and where many believe this order falls within the pantheon of the Illuminati secret societies. Candace Taylor, a minor candidate for the 2022 Republican nomination for governor of Georgia, made the destruction of the Guidestones one of her campaign pledges, claiming they were a satanic evil. Comedian John Oliver satirized Taylor's pledge to destroy the Guidestones in his web-exclusive Rocks. He also discussed the Guidestones' connection to white supremacy, referencing the theory that Herbert H. Kirsten paid for them. One interpretation of the stones is that they describe the basic concepts required to rebuild a devastated civilization. Author Brad Meltzer notes that the stones were built in 1979 at the height of the Cold War, and thus argues they may have been intended as a message to the possible survivors of a nuclear World War III. The engraved suggestion to keep humanity's population below 500 million could have been made under the assumption that war had already reduced humanity below this number. I mean, I don't know where he pulled that out of. The Guidestones were briefly shown and discussed in the documentary films Sherman's March, 1986, and Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, 2007. This is an Alex Jones documentary. Alex Jones, we actually do have an upcoming episode on Alex Jones and his connections to possible government entities, thus many believing he is some kind of a shill. It was the Guidestones were also featured extensively in the 2012 episode of Mysteries at the Museum, a monumental mystery special featuring Don Wildman. All right, so what does everybody think of the theory that this was kind of a guide to rebuilding civilization in the event that it is destroyed? Although, obviously, yeah, R.C. Christian, I mean, come on. Wow. I mean... yeah, there's a lot of speculation here. It was also mentioned in the book Mysteries and Secrets of the Templars in 2005 by Lionel R. Fanthorpe. I mean, a lot of curiosities here. Obviously, the Templars also erected monuments of various kinds. Also, we'd be remiss to mention, like, why this specific spot. Because it's not like there's a whole bunch of other places that have something like this, specifically, at least built in the 80s or so. And also the fact that they're a sundial and a clock. And also, obviously, made it of granite, just like the pyramids of Egypt. So, it's actually quite interesting, because apparently the guidebook from... from the Georgia Guidestones guidebook, a pamphlet produced by the granite company which produced the monument, states some interesting information. So let's look at this excerpt here from vigilantcitizen.com on the Georgia Guidestones, explanations directly from the anonymous authors. Since the monument's erection in March 22nd, 1980, numerous authors and researchers have obtained to interpret the rationale behind these 10 guidelines. Do they truly consist of a blueprint for a new world order, or are they simply rules to ask in case of a major rules to apply in case of a major catastrophe? The best place to get an accurate answer is to ask the authors of the rules themselves. However, since they have chosen to remain anonymous, it is impossible to do so. They did, however, leave an all-important statement which has been overlooked by nearly all researchers of the Guidestones. This astonishing text, which describes their motives in great detail, can only be found in the Georgia Guidestones Guidebook, a pamphlet produced by the granite company which produced the monument. Right from the start, it is obvious that the authors of the monument do seek the creation of a new world order. This is not a conspiracy theory or hypothesis. It is written in clear and unequivocal terms. So here is, directly from the pen of the secret authors, the explanation of the 10 rules of the Guidestones. Parts in bold have been highlighted by myself to emphasize noteworthy parts. It is very probable that humanity now possessed the knowledge needed to establish an effective world government. I mean, that's not cryptic at all. That's a pretty explicit statement there. In some way, that knowledge must be widely seated in the consciousness of all mankind. Very soon, the hearts of our human family must be touched and warmed, so we will welcome a global rule of reason. The group consciousness of our race is blind, perverse, and easily distracted by trivia when it should be focused on fundamentals. We are entering a critical era. Population pressures will soon create political and economic crises throughout the world. These will make more difficult, and at the same time more needed, the building of a rational world society. A first step will to be convince a doubting world that such a society is now possible. Let us keep in view enduring appeals to the collective reason of humanity. Let us draw attention to the basic problems. Let us establish proper priorities. We must order our home here on Earth before we reach for the stars. Human reason is now awakening to its strength. It is the most powerful agency yet released in the unfolding of our life on our planet. We must make humanity aware that acceptance of compassionate, enlightened reason will let us control our destiny within the limits inherent in our nature. It is difficult to seed wisdom in closed human minds. Cultural inertias are not easily overcome. Unfolding world events and the sad record of our race dramatize the shortcomings of traditional agencies in governing human affairs. The approaching crisis may make mankind willing to accept a system of world law, which will stress the responsibility of individual nations in regulating internal affairs and which will assist them in the peaceful management of international frictions. With such a system, we could eliminate war. We could provide every person an opportunity to seek a life of purpose and fulfillment. There are alternatives to Armageddon. They are attainable, but they will not happen without coordinated efforts by millions of dedicated people in all nations of the earth. We, the sponsors of the Georgia Guidestones, are a small group of Americans who wish to focus attention on problems central to the present quandary of humanity. We have a simple message for other human beings, now and in the future. We believe it contains self-evident truths, and we intend no bias for a particular creed or philosophy, yet our message is in some areas controversial. We have chosen to remain anonymous in order to avoid debate and contention which might confuse our meaning, and which might delay a considered review of our thoughts. We believe that our precepts are sound. They must stand on their own merits. Stonehenge and other vestiges of ancient human thoughts arouse our curiosity but carry no message for our guidance. To convey our ideas across time to other human beings, we erected a monument, a cluster of graven stones. These silent stones will display our ideas now and when we have gone. We hope that they will merit increasing acceptance, and through their silent persistence they will hasten, in a small degree, the coming age of reason. We believe that each human being has a purpose. Every one of us is a small but significant bit of the infinite. The celestial alignments of these stones will symbolize the need for humanity to be square with the external principles which are manifest in our own nature and in the universe around us. We must live in harmony with the infinite. 4 large stones in the center cluster are inscribed with 10 precepts, each stone carrying the same text in 2 languages. In the English version, the message totals fewer than 100 words. The languages have been selected for their historical significance and for their impact on people now living. Since there are 3,000 living languages, not all could be chosen. We envision a later phase in the development of the Georgia Guidestones. It is hoped that other stones can be erected in outer circles to mark the migrations of the sun and perhaps other celestial phenomena. These stones would carry our words in the languages of other individuals who share our beliefs and will raise similar stones at international boundaries in the languages of friendly neighbors. They would serve as reminders of the difficulties which all humanity must face together and would encourage mutual efforts to deal with them rationally and with justice. We profess no divine inspiration beyond that which can be found in all human minds. Our thoughts reflect our analysis of the problems confronting humanity in the dawning of the atomic age. They outline in general terms certain basic steps which must be taken to establish for humanity a benevolent and enduring equilibrium with the universe. Human beings are special creatures. We are shepherds for all earthly life. In this world, we play a central role in an eternal struggle between good and evil, between forces which build and those which would destroy. The infinite envelops all that exists, even struggle, conflict, and change, which may reflect turmoils in the very soul of God. We humans have been gifted with a small capacity to know and to act, for good or for evil. We must strive to optimize our existence not only for ourselves, but those who come after us. And we must not be unmindful of the welfare of all other living things whose destinies have been placed in our trust. We are the major agency through which good and evil qualities of the spirit become actors in our world. Without us, there is very little of love, mercy, or compassion. Yet we can also be agents of hate and cruelty or cold indifference. Only we can consciously work to improve this imperfect world. It is not enough for us to merely drift with the current. The rational world of tomorrow lies ever upstream. In 1980, as these stones were being raised, the most pressing world problem was the need to control human numbers. Let me repeat that again. The most pressing world problem was the need to control human numbers in 1980, according to this group. In recent centuries, technology and abundant fuels have made possible a multiplication of humanity far beyond what is prudent or long sustainable. Now we can foresee the impending exhaustion of these energy sources and the depletion of world reserves of many vital raw materials. Controlling our reproduction is urgently needed. It will require major changes in our attitudes and customs. Unfortunately, the inertia of human custom can be extreme. This is especially true when those for whom custom is a dominant force are uninformed for the need for change. Nearly every nation is now overpopulated in terms of perpetual balance with nature. We are like a fleet of overcrowded lifeboats confronted with an approaching tempest. In the United States of America, we are seriously overtaxing our resources to maintain our present population in the existing state of prosperity. We are destroying our farmland, and we have grown dangerously dependent upon external sources for oil, metals, and other renewable resources. Nations such as Japan, Holland, and Haiti are even more seriously overpopulated and therefore in greater jeopardy. In these circumstances, reproduction is no longer exclusively a personal matter. Society must have a voice and some power of direction in regulating this vital function. The wishes of human couples are important but not paramount. The interests of present society and the welfare of our future generations must be given increasing consideration as we develop mechanisms to bring rational control to our childbearing. Irresponsible childbearing must be discouraged by legal and social pressures. Couples who cannot provide a decent income and support for a child should not produce children to be a burden for their neighbors. Bringing unneeded children into an overcrowded lifeboat is evil. It is unjust to those children. It is harmful for the other occupants and all living things. Society should not encourage or subsidize such behavior. Knowledge and techniques for regulating human reproduction are now in existence. Moral and political leaders throughout the world have a grave responsibility to make this knowledge and those techniques generally available. A grave responsibility? This could be done with a fraction of the funds which the world now devotes to military purpose. In the long run, diverting funds into this channel could do more than anything else to reduce the tensions which lead to war. A diverse and prosperous world population of perpetual balance with global resources will be the cornerstone for a rational world order. People of good will in all nations must work to establish that balance. With the completion of the central cluster of the Georgia Guidestones, our small sponsoring group has disbanded. We leave the monument in the safekeeping of the people of Elbert County, Georgia. If our inscribed words are dimmed by the wear of wind and sun and time, we ask that you will cut them deeper. If the stones should fall, or if they be scattered by people of little understanding, we ask that you will raise them again. We invite our fellow human beings in all nations to reflect on our simple message. When these goals are someday sought by the generality of mankind, a rational world order can be achieved for all. And you know what's kind of curious? The narcissism of the people that have this so-called message, as if they have the monopoly of truth on what really would be better for mankind. I mean, this is just insanity. Not to mention, is this a case of of evil coming in the name of good? So in order to hoodwink all the masses into their New World Order agenda, they have to pretend it's about the good of humanity. Because otherwise, I mean, even the dumbest gullible goof would not go along with it if it was framed as murder. Now, to the doubters, to the coincidence theorists who believe there is no New World Order, I invite you to watch a couple speeches from certain political individuals here and talking about orders and such. Here they are.
To build a new world order.
A new world order. A new world order. A new world order. A new world order. A new world order. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order.
That I often use myself, that we needed a new world order.
A new order of the ages.
A new world order.
But of the global order of a new world order. World order. But what does the new world order mean in this new world order? It is a new world order.
I think a new world order is emerging.
And we are in the midst of one of the historic global transformations that is going to eventually lead to a new world order.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
We need a great reset. We can build a new social contract, global order.
Is to actually create a new world order.
A new world order!
And now is the time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order.
There's a need for a new world order. There's a need for a new world order.
So what else is kind of interesting? Let's go through a couple quotes here from various individuals. Also on vigilancecitizen.com here. In 1988, Britain's Prince Philip expressed the wish that should he be reincarnated, he would want to be a deadly virus that would reduce the world population. More recently, Bill Gates said, quote, "The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%, end quote." And a lot of the coincidence theorists, the authority-worshipping cultists, the statists, these goofs hallucinate he never even said that. Then, of course, when you produce the video clip.
First, we've got population. The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. New healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%.
Then they move the goalpost to, oh, he must have meant something else. I mean, the cognitive dissonance of these goofs. If you haven't checked out the Bill Gates Conspiracy Podcast on Mindtrack, make sure you check that out. There's a lot more than meets the eye to this computer guy who couldn't even solve viruses on computers trying to solve viruses in humans.
Hello, I'm Bill Gates, chairman of Microsoft. In this video, you're going to see the future. Windows. Microsoft first came up with the Windows concept back in 1983. And today, the leading software users have switched into the Windows environment. It's really incredible how quickly our powerful applications like Word and Excel and PowerPoint have been adopted. It's not just Microsoft applications. Even companies like WordPerfect and Lotus have now come out with Windows applications. And every week we see new innovative work. It's really attracting all the innovation in the industry. We predicted this a long time ago, and now it's the future. Let's take a look.
It's going to say, hey, I see you've plugged in a new device, and it's going to load in the appropriate drivers. You'll notice that this scanner build, whoa. That must be why we're not shipping Windows 98 yet. Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's really incredible.
You'll notice that this scanner build, whoa.
It's really incredible.
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 Along with tax-deductible donations of enormous amounts of money to help the depopulation cause, secret meetings of the world's elite have been taking place to discuss those issues. And if you remember, the coincidence theorists, these authority-worshipping cultists, they with religious fervor and blind faith in the corrupt, they've denied that any such meetings even existed. Alex Jones has been exposing like the Bilderberg Group and all these secret societies and meetings for years and decades. And yet the gullible goofs still never believe. Now you can openly find videos of Obama speaking at the Bilderberg Group about this order and about humans having to surrender rights at the Bilderberg Group.
And for the international order that we have worked for generations to build. Ordinary men and women are too small-minded to govern their own affairs. That order and progress can only come when individuals surrender their rights to an all-powerful sovereign.
And what do all the coincidence theorists and authority-worshipping cultists do? They just pretty much ignore it. When their cluelessness is exposed and they've been proven dead wrong, I mean, what is the scoreboard between coincidence theorists, the Dunning-Kruger crowd, and conspiracy theorists, critical thinkers who are scientifically skeptical of corrupt, proven liars with horrible track records? I mean, what is the scoreboard between these two groups of people? An interesting quote here from the Sunday Times, May 24th, 2009. Some of America's leading billionaires have met secretly to consider how their wealth could be used to slow the growth of the world's population and speed up improvements in health and education. The philanthropists who attended a summit convened on the initiative of Bill Gates, the Microsoft co-founder, discussed joining forces to overcome political and religious obstacles to change. Described as the Good Club, wow, that's ominous, by one insider, it included David Rockefeller Jr., the patriarch of America's wealthiest dynasty, Warren Buffett, and George Soros, the financiers. I mean, these are obviously individuals of a high integrity. Michael Bloomberg, the mayor of New York, and the media moguls Ted Turner and Oprah Winfrey. And some actually rumor that Ted Turner is behind these Georgia Guidestones as well. So this is from the Sunday Times. So, like, this is not some conspiracy theorist blog like the coincidence theorists love to hallucinate and pretend all this information about secret meetings is coming from some guy in his mom's basement. So this article, by the way, was published November 15th, 2010. So before this alleged disease that's going around and various issues with its treatment. So that's quite curious. Now let's look at even more ominous quotes here. So this is openly admitted in the memoirs of David Rockefeller. It's actually page 405 for those that want the specific quote and got triggered, their cognitive dissonance got tripped. David Rockefeller states in his memoirs here, page 405, "Some even believe we are a part of a secret cabal working against the best interests of the United States, characterizing my family and me as internationalists," I guess that's what they called them before, globalists, "and of conspiring with others around the world to build a more integrated global political and economic structure. One world, if you will. And if that's the charge, I stand guilty, and I am proud of it." So regardless of anybody who wants to pretend that he's a good guy or whether he's a bad guy, that's irrelevant. He's clearly stating that he's guilty, that he's part of a secret cabal. Well, actually, he specifically stated against the best interest of the U.S. So not just creating some kind of integrated global political and economic structure for positive means. He's stating he's guilty of acting against the best interest of the U.S. I mean, explicitly. I mean, it's right in his memoirs. It's not like it's a book written by someone else about him. I mean, I really would like to hear coincidence theorists counter any of this, but they never do. All they do is straw man and go for the ad hom logical fallacies. So Manly P. Hall wrote, and he's a controversial figure, supposedly initiated into secret societies and such. Some people think he's a good guy. Some people think he's a bad guy. Some people think he's a bad guy with a conscience, and he blew the whistle on what was going on in these societies. So Manly P. Hall wrote in 1917, quote, this is from the Secret Teachings of All Ages, quote, "When the mob governs, man is ruled by ignorance. When the church governs, he is ruled by superstition. And when the state governs, he is ruled by fear. Before men can live together in harmony and understanding, ignorance must be transmuted into wisdom, superstition into an illumined faith, and fear into love. Despite statements to the contrary, Masonry is a religion seeking to unite God and man by elevating its initiates to that level of consciousness whereon they can behold with clarified vision the workings of the great architect of the universe. From age to age, the vision of a perfect civilization is preserved as the ideal for mankind. In the midst of that civilization shall stand a mighty university wherein both the sacred and secular sciences concerning the mysteries of life will freely be taught to all who will assume the philosophic life. Here, creed and dogma will have no place. The superficial will be removed and only the essential preserved. The world will be ruled by the most illumined minds, and each will occupy the position for which he is most admirably fitted. Interesting. In The Secret Destiny of America, Manly P. Hall writes this: world democracy was the secret dream of the great classical philosophers. Toward the accomplishment of this greatest of all human ends, they outlined programs of education, religion, and social conduct directed to the ultimate achievement of a practical and universal brotherhood. And in order to accomplish their purpose more effectively, these ancient scholars bound themselves with certain mystic ties into a broad confraternity. In Egypt, Greece, India, and China, the state mysteries came into existence. Orders of initiated priest philosophers were formed as a sovereign body to instruct, advise, and direct the rulers of the states. So he's stating here, regardless of whether you agree or disagree, he is clearly stating the following concept, that there are some kind of secret societies pulling the strings of the rulers of different states. He's using states in terms of nations, not particular to the U.S. So what do all the coincidence theorists make of that? Let's continue here with who are the authors? So who are the anonymous authors of the Georgia Guidestones? So who is this small group of Americans who seek the age of reason? Although their identity is secret, they have left some telling clues to the initiates, unmistakably pointing toward the occult nature of their group. For starters, the text above bears the unmistakable mark of Western occultism. We can find references to as above, so below. The celestial alignments of the stones symbolize the need for humanity to be square with external principles which are manifest in our own nature and in the universe around us. And to duality. We are the major agency through which good and evil qualities of the spirit become actors in our world. Without us, there is very little of love, mercy, or compassion, yet we can also be agents of hate and cruelty and cold indifference. I believe this text alone provides enough proof to conclude that the authors are either Freemasons, Rosicrucians, or another hermetic secret society. The person who's stating this is VigilantCitizen.com. There are, however, even more obvious clues pointing to the esoteric leanings of the authors, starting with R.C. Christian, the mysterious man who ordered the monument. So there is a photo from the unveiling here. I mean, from this angle, it's kind of hard to tell. Clearly, it looks like less than 100 people, but it's unclear how many more people there are beyond the view of this angle here. Here's the story of the ordering of the Guidestones as told by the official guidebook. What started out as a casual Friday afternoon in midsummer has ended in the production and erection of one of the world's most unusual monuments produced under the most unusual conditions. Joe Fenley, president of Elbert Granite Finishing Company, Inc., in Elberton, Georgia, was spending this Friday afternoon in June 1979 like he spends most Friday afternoons, studying his weekly reports and generally closing up shop for a weekend. And then it all started. A neatly dressed man walked into Fenley's Tate Street office and said he wanted to buy a monument. Since everyone else in the office was busy, Fenley decided to talk to the stranger himself and explain that his company does not sell directly to the public, but only on a wholesale basis. Not to be discouraged, the middle-aged man, who identified himself only as Mr. Robert C. Christian, said he wanted to know the cost of building a monument to the conservation of mankind and began telling Fenley what type of monument he wanted. With this, he outlined the size in metric measurements. Fenley admitted that his first reaction to Mr. Christian was not very good, but after listening for about 20 minutes and learning the massive size of the monument he wished to purchase and have erected, Fenley decided he should take this man seriously. If the name R.C. Christian was simply a meaningless pseudonym, why would it be engraved onto the monument for posterity? That's a good point. Could the name be of any significance? Well, it is. Christian is a clear reference to Christian Rosicrucians, whose English name is Christian Rose Cross, the legendary founder of the Rosicrucian order. Some might say that the resemblance between R.C. Christian and Christian Rose Cross is the result of an odd coincidence. Coincidence theorists do love their coincidences. As we will see, it is, however, only one of the many references to Rosicrucianism associated with the monument. This is only one piece of the puzzle, but an important piece nonetheless. The Rosicrucians are known for publishing 3 manifestos. Published at the beginning of the 17th century, Fama Fraternitatis Rosicrucis, Confessio Fraternitatis, and Chemical Wedding of Christian Rosicrucians. These anonymous works, surrounded by mystery, cryptically introduced the general public to the Rosicrucian philosophy, while announcing a great transformation of the political and intellectual landscape of Europe. The Age of Enlightenment soon followed, accompanied by the fall of feudal monarchies. The Georgie Guidestones seem to accomplish the same functions as the Rosicrucian manifestos by calling for an important world transformation and maintaining a climate of mystery. The Age of Reason. Does Age of Reason refer to Thomas Paine, a prominent Rosicrucian? There are numerous references to the concept of Age of Reason within the Guidestones. Could they be a reference to the classical work of Thomas Paine entitled The Age of Reason, which is a deistic treatise written by 18th century British radical and American revolutionary Thomas Paine? The work critiques institutionalized religion and challenges the inerrancy of the Bible. Its tenets advocate reason in place of revelation, a viewpoint that is obviously shared by the authors of the Guidestones. It is a known fact that Thomas Paine was a leading member of the Rosicrucian fraternity in America. The Rosicrucian fraternity existed in America prior to the First American Revolution. In 1774, the Great Council of Three, the fraternity's ultimate governing body, was composed of Benjamin Franklin, George Clymer, and Thomas Paine. This is from the Fraternitas Rosicrucis. In The Secret Destiny of America, Manly P. Hall describes Thomas Paine as an important crusader for the march towards an ideal world government. Quote, of Thomas Paine, it has been said that he did more to win the independence of the colonies with his pen than George Washington accomplished with his sword. Only complete reorganization of government, religion, and education would bring us, even today, to the perfectionist state Tom Paine envisioned, end quote. This thinly veiled reference to Thomas Paine is another piece of the Rosicrucian puzzle, which leads me to believe that the authors were either Freemasons, who have incorporated Rosicrucian teachings into their degrees, or members of the Rosicrucian fraternity. Furthermore, as if to make things more obvious, the Georgia Guidestone booklet mentions that Joe H. Fenley Sr., the president of Elberton Granite, as well as many other people involved in the building of the monument, were Masons. Was this the reason of the selection of these men by the anonymous sponsors of the monuments? From the Georgia Guidestones guidebook, from the horse's mouth here, Fendley is also involved in fraternal activities, raised a master mason. In 1958, he is now a member of the Philomathia Masonic Lodge No. 25 in Elberton. It is a York Rite and Scottish Rite 32-degree Mason, and was admitted into the Yarab Shrine Temple in Atlanta in 1969. He was president of the Savannah Valley Shrine Club from 1972 to 1973. The potentate of the Yara Shrine Temple awarded Fenley the Divan Degree of Distinction in 1973 and appointed ambassador in 1975. This is straight from the Georgia Guidestones guidebook. Wow. I mean, what does everybody make of this? I mean, this is getting quite obvious here. In conclusion, the Georgia Guidestones are a modern-day Rosicrucian manifesto calling for or announcing a drastic change in the way the world is managed. The monument is of great importance in the understanding of the forces covertly shaping today and tomorrow's world. It materializes into stone the crucial link between societies, the world elite, and the agenda for a new world order. The push for a world government, population control, and environmentalism are issues that are today discussed on a daily basis in current events. They were not in 1981 when the Guidestones were erected. That's a great point there. Can we say that great progress was made? Many of the rules of the Guidestones do make sense for the preserving of Earth on a long-term basis, but between the idealistic words of the Guidestones authors and the actual way these policies would be applied on the masses by power-hungry and greedy politicians, there is a world of difference. Reading between the lines, the Guidestones require from the masses the loss of many personal liberties and to submit to heightened governmental control on many social issues, not to mention the death of 92.5% of the population, and probably not those of the elite. Is the concept of a democracy by and for the people, as idealized by the Founding Fathers, a mere illusion, a temporary solution until the introduction of a totalitarian world government? Why are the world's citizens not being consulted in a democratic manner? I guess it is easier for the elites to manufacture consent through mass media, but maybe it won't work on everybody. Some excellent points made here. Some excellent points indeed. An interesting comment here by Will. Not to worry, if you like the Georgia Guidestone Plan, the United Nations Resolution 21, or better known as Agenda 21, is here and has been put in motion and signed by 178 countries, including the USA. Basically, what is written on the Georgia Guidestones can be found within the documents and books of Agenda 21. The plan is nothing more than global collectivism, using preservation of nature as a pretext to enslave and reduce humanity. Abolishment of private property, free education, a centralized private bank, heavy progressive taxes. Where have we heard all of these goals before? Oh, that's right, Karl Marx. What's best for society takes precedence over individual rights. The social engineers use Hegelian dialect, problem, reaction, solution, and this is the latest crisis they must use to create the world they want. Deception via incrementalism. Small changes that no one cares about until you add them up over 40 to 60 years later, and it's too late. Research Agenda 21, it's already being implemented right under your own noses. And you know what's scary? This was written 8 years ago. And what does the world look like today? I mean, this is really crazy stuff. Another response here just 2 years ago. I think the people who ordered the building of the Guidestones are related to the OECD. R.C. Christian had mentioned planning for the Guidestones began 20 years earlier, 1960-ish. The OECD formed in 1961, the Global Economy Initiative. I would assume it's tied in. I would also assume this novel virus, which was coincidentally discussed at the Event 201 panel in October 2019, is also tied in there. Of course, this is their power play. Everything is in motion now. I mean, clearly these things are all obvious coincidences, are they not? I mean, no matter how many coincidences they all have to remain coincidence. Did I get that right, coincidence theorists? Here's another interesting post by Cyrus here. 2 years ago, I took a trip to Elberton last year to see these things for myself before I wrote a book about them. I found a lot of folks around there weren't open to talking about them. Almost like they were embarrassed to or intimidated. I found one person to talk with me as I was researching for the book, a pastor in the nearby area. He asked to remain anonymous. Ironic. So, now, is anybody getting horror movie vibes here? So the locals don't want to talk about it either, and he only found one person to talk with him, a pastor who wanted to remain anonymous. Interesting. Wow, check this post out by Joe 8 years ago. I am surprised someone hasn't already blown up the stones. It is Georgia, after all. I, for one, would smile if they did. Isn't it obvious why? Why in the world does society place importance on anything that promotes its extinction? Have people really reduced themselves to such ignorance? The Holy Bible gives a big yes. We must die spiritually to this world and be renewed through Christ, for he is the only way to real life. Life in this world is worthless. I don't know if I agree with that, the last comments here, but the beginning, he's surprised nobody's blown up the stones yet. Well, it took 8 years, but happened now. So here's the video. I mean, it doesn't really show who put anything there, which is kind of weird, but they just show the explosion. And the GBI has completely demolished the Georgia Guidestones for safety. I mean, I guess they didn't trust just closing off the area. So this is from WYFF4.com. Videos released of explosion at Georgia Guidestone, structure demolished, GBI says. A second video shows a car leaving the scene shortly after the explosion. Interesting. I mean, is it definitive that that particular car was involved in the explosion? I mean, if it was at night, I guess maybe. The preliminary info indicates that someone detonated an explosive device around 4 a.m. on Wednesday, according to the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. GBI officials said officials with the Elberton County Sheriff's Office found the explosion destroyed a large portion of the structure. Christopher Kubas, Executive Vice President of the Elberton Granite Association, said the organization has a role in the maintenance and preservation of the Guidestones. The capstone piece has been damaged, and I'm sure the other 3 wings and the center support probably have damaged them as well. Kubas said each one of those wings is 16 feet 4 inches tall, it's 1.7 inches thick, and it's 6 feet 6 inches wide. I mean, you gotta have at least some 6 references and anything occult or New World Order related. They weigh about 42,000 pounds each. Kubas said there were 24/7 surveillance camera installed on the site a few years ago after incidents of vandalism. The stones have messages on them, Kubas said. You know, guides for humanity. Some people find them offensive, some people don't. Over the years, we've had messages spray painted on the Guidestones. Kubas said the site has always been a major tourist attraction. I've met people from Australia, from China, from all over the world here at the Guidestones, Kubas said. We probably have an excess of 20,000 visitors a year here. The site has also been a ground for controversy related to religion and what the Guidestones may or may not symbolize. So several different witnesses said they heard an explosion at 4 a.m. All right, so there you have it. The Georgia Guidestones destroyed. What does everybody make of the Georgia Guidestones? Was it clearly an instrument of the New World Order, or was it commissioned by a group that was hoodwinked by the New World Order, or was this a group that was neither hoodwinked nor part of the New World Order, but had some goals that may have aligned with the official New World Order and Illuminati, secret society, sects, and such? Leave your comments, theories, thoughts, suggestions, rebuttals of any kind in the comments section. Hope you guys enjoyed another edition of the Mind Shock Podcast, where we ask questions the mainstream is too terrified to ask, where we do logical examinations without falling for logical fallacies into subjects that the mainstream is too terrified of broaching. This is Mind Shock. If you want to help support the podcast, you can donate to our PayPal. Just check the link in the description. You could also become a YouTube member right here on YouTube for access to exclusive streams and chats. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Patreon. Patrons do get priority for case topic, logical analysis, podcast requests. You could also be a guest on the podcast depending on your tier. This is Bruce McGuire signing off. Catch you guys